Ryan B says, are you aware of any people being murdered by demons? How about in parapsychology? Any cases of ghosts causing harm to people? Well, um, there, I'm not aware of anyone who's been murdered by a demon. Um, I am aware, based on New Testament passages, that indicate demons can do severe harm to people and can try to murder people. In fact, in one of the accounts of the epileptic boy, his father says the demons often tried to destroy him and has like caused him to have epilepsy and fall into the fire or fall into water while he's having an epileptic spasm. So I would be very unsurprised, even though I don't know of any cases where someone has been murdered by a demon. I would be very unsurprised to find out there are. I would estimate that's probably happened in human history. When it comes to ghosts harming people, um, th- there are certainly encounters where people perceive that a ghost is trying to harm them. Um, but there are things to be careful about in analyzing those situations. The first one is people tend to freak out when any kind of a spirit shows up, whether it's a ghost or an angel. That's why angels often have to tell people, fear not, don't worry about the fact I'm here. You don't need to freak out. Well, that happens with human ghosts too. Anytime a spirit shows up, people often freak out. And so and when they freak out, they can assume hostile intent when there is none. And so people may perceive a ghost as trying to harm them when the ghost is just trying to say hello. Also, there are situations where the person believes there is a ghost trying to harm them, and there actually isn't one. And this often happens in poltergeist cases where stuff's moving around and so forth, and people think, oh, a spirit is trying to harm me. But it turns out that in a lot of cases, not all of them, but in a lot of cases, the evidence actually supports an alternative hypothesis of what's going on in these situations, that it's not actually a spirit that's causing this. Instead, it's a phenomenon known as recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis. So it's psychokinesis because stuff's moving around. It's recurrent, or it's spontaneous because no one is trying to make it move around. It's just happening. And it's recurrent because it keeps happening. So that's recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, or RSPK. Well, the RSPK is being produced not by a spirit, but by a living person. This is an example of what's known as living agent psi. A living person is doing this, but they're not trying to do it. It's happening spontaneously. And based on a variety of cases that were studied in the 20th century, it became apparent that actually RSPK, rather than a spirit, is responsible for a lot of poltergeist cases. What appears to happen is if a person is under a great deal of stress and they don't feel like they can vent that stress any other way, their subconscious may throw a temper tantrum psychokinetically and start moving stuff around. And for these people, the solution is not have an exorcism, or which would be what you do if it's a demon, or like pray for a soul in purgatory that's haunting this person. The solution is get them stress management therapy. Help them, learn how to relax. They can take a meditation class. They can take a stress management class. They can take up a martial art so they can vent their frustration some other way. But since it's being caused by a living person who's under stress, finding a way to address the stress that they're under is actually the cure in this situation. But when a person is first having psychokinetic things happening around them, unpredictably, they may assume a spirit is trying to harm me when in fact it's not a spirit at all. It's their own frustrated subconscious. But I am aware of situations where spirits have tried to harm people, or at least appear to have tried to harm people. And an example of that, I'll actually get you the episode number because I can pull it up right quick. It's episode 164, of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. So it's at mysterious.fm/164. FM is in FM radio, mysterious.fm/164. In this episode, we tell the story of the Border Patrol ghost, who was a member of the Border Patrol at San Diego in Southern California, who was killed apparently by falling to his death. But he was killed apparently by a smuggler and drug runner. And his ghost then would show up and be looking for the man who killed him. And apparently, he eventually found the man who killed him, who then fell to his death. Now, we don't know from the reports of the situation whether he was pushed by the ghost or just frightened by the ghost and then fell to his death. But one way or another, the ghost was seeking some kind of justice in this situation. And so, there can be situations where a ghost is looking for justice, and that may result in some form of harm to a person. But this is a rare circumstance. This normally does not happen. Ghosts are not normally people who are trying to cause others harm. Normally, they are either just brief after-death communications to let people know I'm okay, or they're there because they're experiencing purgation in some form, and so they may need prayer or things like that. Thomas Aquinas does envision the possibility of a damned spirit appearing to the living by God's permission, but whether that damned spirit, I would suppose such a damned spirit could try to harm the living, just like demons do, because a damned soul and a demon are basically both playing for team evil at this point. So I would imagine they'd be interested in hurting living humans, but appearances of damned souls are very rare. It's normally heavenly souls who are just here to say I'm okay, or it's purgatorial souls that need prayers but aren't out to hurt anybody.
And before we go, don't forget to like, comment, share the podcast with others, and subscribe. When you subscribe, hit the bell notification so you always get notified whenever I have a new video. Thank you, and God bless you.